Hey everybody, how you doing? I had to put my phone on on silent because somebody's calling me right at the time when I'm supposed to have the podcast. And Michael DeBrava, Mick knows better than to call me right now. So Mick, get on the YouTube and listen to the Weathered Soul podcast. I'll be there in a minute. Anyway, so
Maybe
here
he was wondering where you were.
He's probably wondering where it was. And hey, you're late. You're late for a podcast, dude. Right. What the hell's your problem? Anyway, welcome to the Weathered Soul podcast. I am AKA the Weathered Soul. Right over there is DJ Dougy with all his glory right there. Smile, Dougy. There you go. And we're here just kind of late. We started a couple minutes late, and and we were having a little spirited conversation about something that I have a question on. And we're gonna enlighten you guys with the question tonight. But right now, I just want to see how Dougie's doing. I know that Dougie had an eventful weekend. I had an eventful weekend. It was very nice for me. It was spring is in the air. I mean, my gosh, we couldn't have asked for a better California weekend than we had this weekend, man. It was nice in the 70s, and I worked out in my yard all weekend and filled up my freaking 55-gallon can with freaking weeds and stuff. It weighs about 300 pounds. I doubt that the trash people are going to take it, but
they have a scale. They know if it weighs too much, it doesn't go up. That happened to me one time. I loaded it up with cactus.
My gosh.
Prickly pear hands, or fronds, whatever they're called. Yeah. It was about halfway full, and it was like, Thursday morning, truck came, and there it was with a note saying, "Try again, pal.
Try again later." Doesn't take long to fill up one of those yard waste cans, man. I'm telling you, man. It was less than a day, and I got it all done. But man, I had to get my backyard done. I had to get things planted. I planted the girls this weekend, so the girls are in the ground, and we're just waiting for them to sprout up. And got a whole bunch of things done in the yard, and it was just a beautiful weekend, and I got to spend a lot of time with my mom this weekend. We talked about her last week, and she's doing well. She's enjoying the outside now that we've got it all fixed up for her and stuff. And we watched the Giants game on Sunday and outside, and it was kind of cool. It was a real cool weekend, and I very much enjoyed it, man. How'd you guys do? What'd you guys up to this weekend?
Well, same old. We had a little bit of a adventure Friday night.
Yeah.
Ended up going up to the emergency vet with our 21-year-old cat, and
that's a old cat, man.
Yeah, once again she pulled. She's like bouncing off the walls again, jumping off the couch and following us around. But I think she's having a problem like eating and drinking.
Yeah. That's
you know how like old people, they have to have that, it's called thick water.
Wow.
Yeah. You're probably familiar with that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You put in the
it's like some kind of starch or something.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of starch in it. But
yeah. I don't know. Maybe she needs that, or we're gonna get her a little water fountain. One of those little spray jobs, because I've seen her drinking out of the sprinklers.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that cat keeps bouncing back, man. That's the oldest cat I've ever known. So
yeah, and once again, like even at the emergency vet, they're like telling us, we're like, usually when we bring her to the vet, we give her a pill beforehand to help sedate her a bit, and this time we didn't, because it was an emergency, and it was like we had to stay outside. But I'm looking at Abby, she's looking at me, and we're both saying to each other, "I'll bet she's in there howling away." And then we get a phone call. Boy, for an old cat, she sure does like to scream.
I can hear her now because I've heard her before. She's like, you never know. Yep. You never know. But anyway, hey,
my stuff.
But hey, we are the Weathered Soul podcast. We are glad you're here. Big shout out to Nicole Odermatt, who sent us 5 stars and a comment that we're doing a great job. And I just wanted to let Nicole know that we're out here, and we just thank you for leaving a comment. You can leave us a comment too on your favorite podcatcher that you have, because we're on all of them. Mainly we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on Radio Now, we are on Spotify, we're on any podcatcher that you can catch us on. Just type in the Weathered Soul podcast right there up on their search screen, and you can join in every Monday night, 7 o'clock. We're here doing our live stream, which only couple limited people get. If you're part of the Weathered Soul podcast, aka the Weathered Soul group page, you can go there. Let me see if I can pull that up right now. You can go there, and right there it is, the Weathered Soul podcast, aka the Weathered Soul group page, where you can go get the podcast. You can type the WSLN or the AKA the Weathered Soul into your little search box for Facebook. You can get there, or you can get to our YouTube page, which is the Weathered Soul Liberty Network, and that's where you can get all the podcasts that we do, because I do about 3 or 4 different podcasts, and this one could be very well morphing into a slightly different podcast. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that later on today, but basically, what I wanted to do was just welcome you guys, thanking you for being listeners. Our numbers are up, and listenership is up. I love every bit of it. The Weathered Soul Liberty Network is going strong on YouTube. We got subscribers now, and I just couldn't be happier. And I think it's all because of Doug, because that good-looking guy over there, he's the one that makes the world go around here. He's the one that keeps AKA the Weathered Soul down on the ground until I stopped getting up off the ceiling. And we were having a real spirited kind of a not argument, just a discussion about the vaccine. And I'm waiting. I'm 60 years old. In California, I think in a couple of days, I think I'm eligible now. I mean, the medical insurance that I have has contacted me and said I can go get an appointment if I want to, and so I haven't done that yet. I'm kind of waiting around. I'm not waiting around to see what happens. I'm just, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer either. I'm just waiting around. I'm healthy. I'm active. I don't have any what do they call that there, Dougy? Comorbidities.
Yeah,
comorbidities.
Sure.
I don't have any of those. Yeah, comorbidities. So I'm feeling pretty lucky. I've gone through this year, very lucky with not having contracted the virus, or maybe I have, and I just don't know. But I'm kind of waiting around and get everybody else vaccinated before I go in. And I'm waiting for the Johnson & Johnson's one shot and be done stuff, because I actually have to go in and get my last shingles shot, and that's coming up this Thursday, and I'm not looking forward to it. But that's one vaccine I have to get, because I'm on the cusp. I already got my one shot, a little bit less than 6 months ago, but I'm coming up on 6 months, and if I don't get it, I got to start it all over again. So that's not going to be one of my favorite things to do. But we were having a discussion about the coronavirus and how the coronavirus is transmitted through the air. I mean, because they've already had some studies that say that the coronavirus doesn't actually populate too easy or spread too easy on surfaces and stuff, even though a lot of people are using gloves and sanitizers and stuff like that. But really, surface contamination of the virus is virtually not non-existent, but it just, the transmission is not a good transmission in between there, unlike the flu or the cold or something like that. But I asked the question, and Dougie says I need to quit listening to who I'm listening to. But no, this came out of the crazy mind of AKA the Weathered Soul here, and I was just wondering, okay, if the virus is airborne, then why not have an airborne vaccine? I mean, people talk about, the wackos, the flat earthers sometimes will look up in the air and say, we're getting bombarded by chemtrails all the time. So why not an airborne vaccine? I think it's a very culpable question, maybe something that they've even been working on. I know they've got several vaccines that are given to you by your nose. I believe they got a new flu vaccine out now for kids that are actually using the nose spray, and I'm sure Doug is patiently looking it up right there, trying to get me back down to earth. But Dougie, what do you think about an airborne vaccine?
Well, I don't think you can have an airborne vaccine. I really don't think that would work, because vaccines don't work that way.
I don't
right?
understand how you see. We were in this discussion, and I still don't have a reasonable answer to why you don't think vaccines work that way.
Well, there's for local administration, the nose works good, right? So if you need a decongestant, you want to spray it up your nose. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. If you have a migraine, there's medicine you can spray up your nose. If you're having a seizure, there's medicine you can spray up your nose, right? But the nose is a really bad way to administer medicine. There's a lot of limitations. How much you can get in there, how much sticks in there, how much gets through the mucous membrane. Okay, and you're talking about a medicine, not a bug.
Okay.
Right? It's different things.
But if we're talking about,
it's like, no, wait, just
okay,
stop.
go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean, you're talking about let's stop termites, right? By bombing the house. Well, you know how dense the fog is inside the house you're bombing?
I don't know.
We'd have to be walking around in a literal fog of vaccine to get enough. So it's not a bad idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
Maybe they could do that at airports. Make you walk through a tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Where you're, inhaling this because when you have strep throat and things like that, there's medicines that they vaporize and you breathe them in and you inhale them.
Right. I think that's kind of where I was going with it, so something like that is because,
but just like letting some loose in the atmosphere, I don't think.
But you brought up an interesting point also about that vaccines aren't made that way either. I mean, so you got the J&J vaccine, which is actually a dead virus vaccine that's delivered into your system with protein, just like egg, it's an egg vaccine. And then you've got the it's suspended in the egg. It's suspended serum. In the egg protein. Yeah, in the serum, the protein. And then you've got the Moderna and the I can't remember the other one, the Zeneca or whatever it is.
Yeah, Pfizer.
Which are Pfizer, the mRNA vaccines, which are actually DNA type of vaccines that take a double dose to get. So one of the things that really kind of caught me and going like, okay, well, they're having difficulty doing this and that, and I know I want to believe that technology is far along that we used to be, where they've always said that they're working on these viruses in labs. Whether or not it came out of the Wuhan lab or whether it came out of a dead bat when you're eating freaking snake soup out of a dead bat, really doesn't matter. The fact is that the virus got loose somehow or some way or another. It jumped from one place to another. An anti-vaccine or an antiviral. I mean, there's probably very many antivirals out there because I've heard of them. They've got flu antivirals out there where it's actually a different virus that is put in that takes care of the virus that you have. And I just think that something can be done that way. I think it's a very interesting hypothesis and concept that could happen. I mean, you got all these people out there that are going like, I'm not going to take the vaccine. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that, which, basically there's a lot of people out there to say that. And there's a lot of people out there that are like me that are going like, kind of going to wait around. And then there's, other people that honestly have comorbidities and fears and don't want to have this virus and stuff like that. And that's totally fine with me. But I think on a global scale, trying to get single shots or double shots out to everybody, because I mean, I heard a article today that they're just reaching into the Appalachians where they finally got some vaccine up in there. And one of the things where it's just, people are just so remote, and
right. But also those people that are so remote have a lower exposure level.
Apparently not.
A stranger
That's
would
not what they
have
were
to come
saying.
into town with it. Really?
Yeah, that's not what they were saying. They were saying that they were just as susceptible per capita as we were, and it
Well, listen, it
to me it
depends on what
wasn't
you're
a bit.
talking about Appalachia.
Yeah, but to me it
Okay, when
wasn't
you
a good.
say Appalachia, I'm
Yeah,
talking about people that live in
yeah, but to me it wasn't a
wood
good argument.
shacks
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
chimney
exactly,
and a
exactly.
stovepipe
Yeah,
and an outhouse
yeah.
out back.
Yeah, and to me, it
Okay,
wasn't a good
uh,
argument
yeah.
just for the fact that we were always saying how many per million or how many per capita or stuff like that, but they were saying that the numbers are still up there. So I'm going like, okay, well, if these people have a problem getting to a spot where they can get a vaccine, or even where they can vote or whatever. Okay, then how is the virus getting to them? So that was my kind of thought when I went in there. So that's kind of what prompted this whole question.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Well,
why
you
not
got to know how
why not an airborne vaccine? I mean,
you
come
got to
on.
know how they live. I mean, that the coronavirus isn't like floating in on a rain cloud from Los Angeles and dumping on West Virginia.
No,
Right?
exactly.
No, somebody has to go out and get it and come back to town and not wear their mask.
It's not like the Fukushima nuclear plant.
And then and then kiss their cousin, right? And then they live 3 generations in a house in some cases.
But anyway,
it depends on what you're talking about, right? I mean, Appalachia, there's deep woods.
Yeah. Oh,
deep
they
woods.
were saying there's people that are miles away from each other, and just trying to get to the people that are living in there is quite a task to do. And
but
then
they have to have contact with the outside world somewhere.
Right, exactly. Somehow, some way, they have to get grocery stores. They got to get gas. They got to get fuel. They got to get everything under the sun. They got to get the same as us, and things like that. But I just thought it was an interesting question, and this is the kind of show that you get with the Winter Soul podcast.
Actually, it makes you think there's nowhere to hide.
Because we're the best podcast that you've never heard of. And now that you've heard of us, all you got to do is hit that share button, hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast, and you can get us every week when us two are just sitting here having our little Zoom call and telling it like it is, the way that we see each other and the way that we see things. And me and Doug are only separated really by, about a mile and a half, maybe. And but
not even as a crow flies, less than a mile.
Not even as a crow fly, probably less than a mile. But it's good to see Dougy every week, and it's good to do this podcast, and I love doing it every week. And so we're going to go on with the show. We got a couple of things we want to talk about today. The show notes are in the YouTube page, and if you want to go to YouTube and find us, we're at the Liberty Soul, the Weathered Soul Liberty Network, right here, the Weathered Soul Liberty Network on YouTube. And you can go there and you can get our latest podcast. Who knew? That's what we're doing now. We're live. See, who knew? There we are. And you can go and get that podcast. Like I said, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit that subscribe button, and you can be a part of the show. Give us a 5-star rating and give us a comment or something. We'll shout you out on the show. But I thought it was interesting that Georgia just recently threw everybody up in arms over their voting, not rights. I want to say their voting laws. And Georgia has a Republican governor, and I guess they decided. I'm not sure if they got to be a heavy Republican Senate. I would imagine their assembly. I'm not sure. I don't know much about Georgia, but I do know that they signed into law. The governor signed into law a bunch of election reforms, and they say that it's limiting people's ability to vote by requiring voter ID, and which brings up a very, very interesting subject to me, because the first thing that I did was I'm going like, wow, people don't have IDs. Like I couldn't imagine not having that. I've had an ID since I was like 13. When I got my first ID card, when I went to go get a worker's permit, and I had an ID, and I think I remember getting my first Social Security card around then too. So right.
If you're an adult in this country, you don't have an ID, you're vagrant.
Pretty much, right?
No, you are. You're breaking the law. You have to have some kind of ID.
Even the 7%.
If you go out in public and you're an adult, you have to have some kind of ID or you're breaking the law. Period.
We have 25 million people, 25 million adults out there that do not have ID. They don't have a proper form of ID in it, and they're not all in Georgia. I'm just saying. I came across a 2015.
Yeah.
I came across an article done in 2015, actually, from projectvote.org. And projectvote.org is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that did studies and on voters' rights and stuff like that. They are, you can say that they're nonpartisan. They lean for people's, let's just say they lean towards people's electoral rights. And what they did was they came up with a Americans with Photo ID, a breakdown of demographics and characteristics. Well, I can tell you, and I'm going to show you here right on your screen, is that many argue that photo identification requirements potentially suppress electoral participation among those most likely to have identification, namely low-income people, young people, racial and ethnic minorities. Some of the key findings that they had in this study is that 25 million, which is 7% of the population, do not have proper ID or photo ID, which of 10% of those are Black, 7% of those are Hispanic, and 2% of those are white. So the key findings is that the rates of identification ownership is highest among white individuals, while other ethnic groups disproportionately lack necessary photo ID. 13% of Black, 10% of Hispanics, and only 5% of whites lack photo identification. I was a little bit wrong. Lower income individuals are less likely to have photo ID. 12% of adults living in a household of less than $25,000 annual lack photo ID, as compared to 2% of households with over $150,000, which is really weird that people with over $150,000 of income would have no ID. Young adults are
impossible.
Yeah, you would think that would be impossible. Would you not think that would be impossible?
I would. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would think so
naive.
too. But anyway, this report was done in 2015 by projectvote.org. It's there in the show notes today if you want to go look at them in the YouTube podcast or the YouTube page. And I just thought it was interesting, Doug. I really did. A podcast I was listening to on the way home was also dealing with IDs and the way that people are coming across some of the things that are going to be going on in the coming future. And I don't want to alarm anybody, but the Biden administration has been working with some private companies, getting them helped along and having what they call vaccine IDs or vaccine passports, which will enable these companies, these quote private companies, to come out with a way to be able to for you to have a passport that says that you have been vaccinated. And whether or not the thing that kind of mirrors each other here with those two ideas coming together is that, and I don't know how me and Dougy has really never talked about whether photo IDs are racist or not. A lot of people will tell you that if you don't have a photo ID, that somehow it's a racist ploy of not being able to be access to proper identification and stuff like that, or being able to vote because you don't have an ID. But then, what do you think about having a vaccine ID just to be able to go to the grocery store or go to the movies or go to a concert or international travel, or for that fact, just, whatever the case may be? I mean, ID in itself, I think is necessary. I mean, I can't live without my ID. I mean, I don't know about you, Dougie, but I mean, I have to have an ID. I have to have an ID to cash a check. I have to have an ID to drive my car. I have to have an ID to have my job. I have to have an ID to pay my taxes. I mean, so I can't imagine how it is that people don't have IDs. I mean, let me hear your insights on that.
Yeah, well, I'd wonder why they don't have an ID. I mean, how can you go through life without having ID? How do you get a bank account? How do you drive a car? How do you do anything. I mean, and it doesn't have to be a driver's license, right?
Mm.
There's ID for people that don't drive, or state issued ID for people that don't drive. Um, even a friggin' gun license with your picture on it is ID. A friend of mine made it through TSA with nothing but his gun license. He left his driver's license at home, or it had expired or something like that, and pulled out his gun license, and it's okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Right, it's a
unbelievable.
form of picture ID, or a passport,
Unbelievable.
or a passport. You
Yeah.
know, why wouldn't you have a passport? Oh, well, I never travel international. Well, it doesn't matter. It helps. You know, it's like for what the hell, just can't. We had to prove our citizenship for prove our real ID. For
Right,
new
right,
driver's
exactly.
license.
Now they have the real IDs, the federal IDs. So I mean,
Yeah.
it behooves me to know that people are being
Do they
refused
not
having
have
IDs.
right?
I
Do
mean,
they not
I
have a
don't know.
birth certificate? I mean, I've lived in a lot of states.
Mhm.
Okay, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Arizona, California. Never once did I have to show any supporting documentation. You know, it's like when I got my first driver's license in Connecticut, you need your birth certificate, right?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
get that, you get your ID.
Right.
And then
Right.
when I went to Arizona, it was like I showed them my Connecticut ID, and they said, "Fine, here's an Arizona one, looks
There's an
just like
Arizona
it."
ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's lack of motivation, whether it's a social economic type thing or whatever, but it disturbs me. Not only, I haven't read into the Georgia law. I really don't care. I think that the states should be able to make their own election laws the way that they want to for their state elections. But as far as the federal elections are concerned, I think that the federal elections, I think all the rules in every state should be the same. I mean, I think if we have a federal election, there should be no difference whether you're voting in California, Nevada, freaking Washington, D.C., or they don't get voted, or or New Hampshire, or Alaska, or Hawaii. The voting should be the same, exactly the same. There's no, if everybody's going to vote by the Dominion system, then everybody votes by the Dominion system. If everybody's going to vote by paper ballot, then everybody votes by paper ballot. It should not differ anywhere. And
Well, no, every state gets its own. We're a
I don't think
republic.
so. I don't think so. No. I think that we are a republic. I understand that totally.
You're talking
I
about
understand that
just
totally.
federal
But
elections, maybe?
I just think federal elections ought to be the same in every state, and they're not. But I think that every state should be able to make their own election rules within their state for their state elections. That's what I think. I mean, that's what I believe. States are sovereign. They're, we all agreed to become a union, but at the same time, we all have our sovereign constitutions and our own laws. I mean, pretty much every state has their own constitution that either mimics the United States Constitution or has different stuff.
It's got to stay within. It's got to stay within the U.S. Constitution. That's part of the rules of being part of the Federation.
Was that the chicken before the egg, or the egg before the chicken, or what? Yeah. I don't remember. I don't. Did they?
Well, Connecticut
did they ratify? Did they ratify?
Connecticut had
the
a constitution before the country did.
Okay, and
right. So these states and these, well, whatever colonies that became states and stuff, all had their own deal going, like they were their own countries before.
Right.
Everybody came together.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And wrote the Constitution.
Right. So every state, the 13 colonies had their constitutions, or some of them did, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they were all set up almost to be like their own countries before they decided to come together.
Right. So I believe in states' rights. I mean, that's just my take. I believe in states' rights.
Well, I think state rights too. I believe that the state should regulate, control, and be responsible for their own elections.
Right.
When it comes to federal elections, they should have to follow some guidelines.
Yeah.
But still do it the way that they want to, but they have to stay within these guidelines. So otherwise it's going to be insane. And what are we going to have? One voting booth for federal elections, and one for state. It's either the state's going to have to
think you
bend to the
have.
federal, or the federal's going to have to bend to the state. One or the other.
I think what you have to do is I mean, in my mind, and we got off the ID thing, but I want to finish this thought. But in my mind, is that you don't have your state election at the same time you have your federal elections. I mean, it's right now. I'm not going to say it's that important because basically, we're voting, we're pawns. But I mean, for the most part,
too much trouble making all those ballots, and then you have to have 2 days off from work. And
wah,
really, because that makes it hard to vote.
No, it doesn't make it hard to vote. I don't think it makes it hard to vote. It was the easiest vote in the world this last year. All you had to do was freaking fill it out and mail it in the mail. I mean, it was there, or drop it off in the box. But anyway, so back to the ID thing. So the breakdown on the ages is pretty significant here. You got your 17 to 20-year-olds, which are the highest on the list at 15%. And then you have the 21 to 24-year-olds that are 11%. And then it kind of slims down as you get a little older, rises back up between 35 and 39, which back up to 7%, goes down again and goes back up to 50 to 54. Back up to 7%. And then once you hit 75, it goes up again, 8%. So it's pretty kind of, kind of a roller coaster ride up there. But to me, I think that generally the 17 to 24 age group, I can see where that can lie. I mean, I had to almost pry my daughter to go get her driver's license. Before that, the only ID she had was a student ID. So I mean, that's pretty much what she had. I had to pry her legs off to.
Well, if she didn't want to get a driver's license, just go get her ID card.
Yeah,
she didn't have an ID card.
Yeah, she didn't have an ID card until she went and got her driver's license. She had a school ID.
She should have had some sort of form of ID by the time she was before she was 18.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
What do you mean? A passport, something?
Well, what are the kids going to do, man? I'm going to force her to go down there and go get one, and
Yes. You should have done it before she was even old enough to know what you were doing. Yeah. Here's your passport.
There's communist Dougy.
Yeah, just follow the rules. I mean, I'll admit, I didn't have a passport until I was like 25. But like my wife's had one since she was 8.
Right. I mean, it's
she didn't have a choice. Her parents said, "We're going to Italy. Here's your passport. Get on the fucking plane."
Right. And if I can learn how to get out of this full screen, I'll be great, man. But I don't know. I'm not sure how to get to my full screen set. But anyway, so
down in the lower right corner, isn't it?
I don't know, man. Yeah. I'm stuck on it.
It's hidden behind Monday's show.
If anybody knows how to get out of a full screen on the computer, I would love to have a comment right now. Just give me a comment and tell me how to get out of Windows 10 full screen mode, because I'm lost.
Oh, hit it. Try hitting escape. All else fails.
That's what I'm saying. It's like escape. Hold on here. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm back.
Yeah, you escaped, huh?
This is the kind of fun we have on the Weather Soul podcast, because we're the greatest podcast nobody's ever heard of.
People don't understand how hard it is to script all this stuff.
It is. It's a tough script, man. You've got a tough job doing this script every week, man. I'm telling you. President Biden. We're going to talk about President Biden a little bit. Actually, before we get into President Biden, I want to hear because you listen to Bill Maher, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he have a rant about the cancel culture the other night?
Yeah, he did.
And tell me about it, because I haven't found a clip. I actually wanted to hear about it. I think the cancel culture is pretty ridiculous, but I wanted to hear kind of some of what you've been listening. You listen to John.
Well,
Oliver.
I don't have it all memorized and stuff. I'd have to. I mean, it was.
But he thinks it's ridiculous.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's not just ridiculous. It's scary. It is an actual witch hunt. It is an honest to God witch hunt.
Do you not think that it's odd that they're going after cartoon characters like Speedy Gonzales and Pepe Le Pew and the Seuss?
They did it a long time ago.
I mean, it's just...
When was the last time you saw a Speedy Gonzales cartoon? When you were 16?
No. No, just recently on Boomerang. Yeah, they had the Speedies and Gonzaleses on Boomerang. They're gone now. They are now gone. As of like about a month ago, they are gone.
Yeah, because all of the Nazi ones and
all
the World War II ones with the Japanese the big teeth
the
and all
Bugs
that.
Bunny with the big teeth and so all those have been those have been gone for years,
for a long time. Yeah,
totally.
And I'm surprised they still allow the Roadrunner with all those explosions.
Yeah.
Really?
They're probably next, dude. You know, Miss Potato Head got axed because of gender inequality, and
they couldn't. They just didn't want him to have to be called Mister anymore. They want him to be able to choose his own name. You call him it or them.
No, I call him Mr. Potato Head. He'll always be Mr. Potato Head for me. And when my grandkids ask for, if I ever have any grandkids,
no, it's just Potato Head now.
No, I'm going to go get you a Mr. Potato Head because that's the way I came up with it. It's a Mr. Potato Head. If you don't want, Mr. Potato Head doesn't even have a dick. So I mean, you know, if you take the potato head out of the box, you show me.
Yeah,
it's like almond milk. Where do you milk an almond at?
Right.
Anyway, President Biden. Oh, President Biden. I love talking about President Biden.
Me too.
The Daily Beast came out not too long ago. Let me see when this was done here. March 19th. Several staffers were informally told by transition officials that some past marijuana use would be overlooked, only to be told later that they were being asked to resign. And it's a big thing. I mean, because 14 states, in fact, I think a couple more states just joined in this last week that kind of completely legalized recreational use of marijuana. And you know, I don't think that marijuana use crosses political lines. I would think that there's just as many Republicans that are smoking weed that there are Democrats, that there are liberals, communists, and everybody, that they all smoke weed. We all smoke weed, and it just seems weird that after this last, I would say, better part of a decade, if not more, marijuana reform has been coming in waves to the states, and for this to even be brought up in the conversation that people are being let go, asked to resign, and even fired for their past marijuana use, brings up the question, because one of the reasons why is that the ways to get top secret clearances is determined about your prior drug use, which is bullshit in my concern, because I had a top secret security clearance in the Air Force, and you know, I wasn't let into the Air Force because I had admitted to drug use before I got into the Air Force, and then I had to spend 6 months on some kind of a little probation thing, and then they finally let me in, and I got a top secret security clearance. But it begs to ask the question that if staffers are getting let go for marijuana use, you had the Vice President, Kamala Harris, admit to Oprah that, and laugh about it. I think it's either Oprah or one of the other girls, that she openly smoked pot in college, and she laughed about it. And so that begs to differ on, okay, is she going to be asked to resign? And if she did get her top secret clearance, because she is the Vice President of the United States, she has to have a top secret security clearance. Did she lie on her application and say no, that she didn't smoke pot after she admitted that she did smoke pot? So I just think it was an interesting article. I think it was very, very interesting. Here's the article right here. I'll bring it up. I actually first read it in the AP, the AP Wire, but the Daily Beast is the one that the AP Wire came out and they sourced. They said dozens of young White House staffers have been suspended, asked to resign, or placed on remote work programs due to past marijuana use, frustrating staffers who were pleased by the initial indications from the Biden administration that recreational use of cannabis would not immediately disqualify him for would-be personnel, according to 3 people familiar with the situation. The policy has affected staffers whose marijuana use was exclusive to one of the 14 states, the District of Columbia, where cannabis is legal. Sources familiar with the matter also said a number of young staffers were either put on probation or canned because they revealed past marijuana use in an official document they filled out as part of a lengthy background check for a position in the Biden White House. In some cases, staffers were informally told by transition higher-ups ahead of formally joining the administration that they would likely overlook some past marijuana use, only to later be asked to resign. And I just thought it was a really interesting article. I thought in this day and age that would probably be the last thing that I would ever read, that you were going to be denied.
Well, you know what his hang up is that it's still illegal federally.
Yeah, it surprises me
right?
too that
Washington, is federal. It's not a state. It's not state government. They're not state employees. They're federal employees, and it's still illegal for federal employees to be doing dope.
Yeah, I wonder what the stumbling block was with Trump, because Trump, I mean, year after year after year, we heard about President Trump was going to take marijuana off the Schedule I drug list, and it never happened. And I'm just trying to figure out who's behind that, because it's not the president. The president doesn't do shit. The president does what his donors and his cronies tell him to do, and sign this and sign that, and approve this and approve that, or support this or support that. And I just wondered who is behind this Schedule I drug list, and why, since the states 14 going on, probably 16 now, because the more states have joined on this last week, in making marijuana legal. I mean, come on, really. I mean, I think it's just a kind of a idiot thing to do, especially in this day and age where we have found out that so many things have improved. I mean, even my dog is on medical marijuana now. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where I just think it was a very interesting report, and we're going to leave it with that.
Well, it's because he's following the policies, right? I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's not just him, right? He didn't make those laws. He's just choosing not to ignore them. It's not his fault. I mean, it's like, I'm reading an article here from a local Washington, D.C. paper that says, the marijuana policy has become less stringent under the Biden administration, allowing for up to 15 past uses in a year among White House staffers. So you could get caught smoking pot 15 times before they fire you. So there must be some pretty serious dopers.
I can't be a White House staffer.
No. But nonetheless, there's at least 30 congressmen and a handful of senators all telling them, stop this shit. This is stupid.
It is stupid,
and something
man.
else that this rolls into too.
And I hope it's bipartisan. I really do.
Yeah, it is.
This is stupid, man.
And something else that rolls into this too is when Mexico is about to federally legalize marijuana.
Yeah, they did. Excuse me. I think that they did today.
Okay, they passed it today.
I think that was the thing. It passed today.
So that's going to put more pressure on Biden administration to press for the federal legalization of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
then all those people can apply for their job again, I guess.
Yeah, it's this time. The time has come. I mean, there's thousands. There is 40,000 people that are spending prison time for marijuana offenses, not violent offenses, not marijuana with violence. Marijuana offenses, using a drug.
It's a Schedule I drug. They could give you a life sentence for that if they want.
I know they can. There's people that are in jail for life for marijuana sentences, dude.
Well, I told you,
insane. And it's insane, dude. It is insane. And if you want to learn more about that, go to my friend John Odermatt's Finding Freedom. He does that every Thursday on the Lions of Liberty. You can go listen to all those stories of people that are being unfairly sentenced to just ridiculous prison sentences for victimless crimes. It's just incredible.
One of my aunt's friends got arrested with a 1/4 ounce of pot in Arizona in 1967.
Oh my gosh.
The judge looked at him and said, Typical marijuana junkie smokes 1 marijuana cigarette a week. You have enough here to supply 7 marijuana junkies for a week. You're a dealer. Life sentence.
You junkie.
Yeah. Yeah, that was his exact quote. I remember it.
Gosh.
Exactly what he told me the judge said. He was out in 3 years, but the fucking judge gave him a life sentence.
I hear you.
Yeah.
What do you think about our border policy, Dougie? Lead me in on a border policy discussion here. We got a couple more minutes going on. We got about 15 minutes. We got a couple.
Well, I think the main thing wrong with our border policy is that we're not doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, do you think we have a crisis?
The only crisis is the management of it.
Yeah, I totally believe the management. I think that again, you have the major players in the media, Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, just going wall to wall, 24.
They got nothing else to talk about.
They got nothing else to talk about. But you know what the real crisis is that for years and years and years and years and years, man, back when I was a kid, they were talking about this comprehensive immigration reform. Reagan let a whole bunch of them in with the amnesty and stuff, and they still keep flooding the border. Why do they keep still flooding the border? It's the best place in the freaking world to live, man. That's why. Yeah. And me, honestly, I'm an open borders type guy. You know, I'm one of those guys. You're going to come in, you're going to be a benefit to my country, then welcome you in, man. Some of the nicest people I know come over the border, dude. And some of the hardest workers that I know that come over the border.
Yeah.
And yes, Trump was right. There are some of these dregs that come over the border and they get deported all the time. And they keep coming over the border and stuff like that. Do we need some kind of control at the border? Yeah, we need some control at the border. But this dog and pony game that they keep bringing out in every administration. I mean, the Biden administration just came out and said, this is Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault because Trump inherited a bad immigration policy from Obama, and he blamed Obama. And Obama blamed Bush. I mean, they just kicked this can down the road decade after decade after decade, man. We've got to do something about it. I'm not sure how it was during the Ellis Island years and stuff like that with immigration when probably a lot of our parents or grandparents came over. I don't even know if it was like that. So, I don't know my history on it, but I'm about ready to start digging into it.
Well, Ellis Island was a big processing area.
Right.
It wasn't like you had to apply, have a hearing, have your status set at one level or another level. Somebody determine whether you meet the needs or whatever. Because it wasn't anything like that. It was come on in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's your name.
So. It was just to
give me your name. Where did you come from? Where are you going?
Yeah, your name is too hard to say. You are now Garcia.
Yeah.
Your name
happened to my grandfather.
What city did you come from? You go to the Godfather. What city did you come from?
Yeah. Palermo.
That's who you are. You're Joe Palermo now. So
Listen,
exactly.
I have an uncle Frank Palermo. So
yeah,
no, Salerno. Sorry. Salerno.
And,
different city, same island.
Keith Greninger said it best, man. It's just like the border crosses the man, not the man doesn't cross the border. The border crosses the man, and I just think that it's nothing that me or you are going to solve. We're not going to solve. We can bang our heads on the freaking Capitol grounds and say you need to do this, but I don't know what it is, man. It's got to be a moneymaker. It's got to be a moneymaker. If there isn't a crisis about it, it's not making money. And I think that this is just a travesty that's going on. I think that every administration, including the Biden administration, is going to be just as guilty as the prior administration on dragging their feet and kicking this can down the road, man. I just don't see any end to it. And,
right. I agree. The best thing to do is to get everybody processed and identified on a list, so you know who they are, because the main thing they want to do to control is people like committing a crime there and coming here to get, and then committing a crime here and going over there. They don't want that kind of international stuff going on. Canada doesn't want, if I murdered somebody, Canada doesn't want me going up there to hide.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean,
If you know,
there's got to be some kind of process, of
yeah.
course. I mean, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any immigration law and there shouldn't be any enforcement or anything like that. I think that sanctuary cities are freaking an idiot way to do things, but that's just the way that some of these states want to go and some of these counties and cities want to go. But I just don't think it's a great way to do it because there's countless and countless accounts of you know dire
Abuse,
things that have happened. Yeah, abuse of it.
like what happened
Everybody's
here in Gilroy with the liquor store.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something that happens. Another moneymaker is the homeless population, this homeless situation that we got, and it's only getting worse. Not only in the United States, California, but here in Gilroy. So we're going to kind of just switch gears for the last little blurb that we got going on here, and yeah, we got a homeless population here that has just exploded in the past year due to coronavirus. Or not, probably not due to. I mean, coronavirus didn't help it any because we had a situation here anyway. Dougie, what we're looking at right here in this picture is actually a picture of the Highway 101 on ramp going south to Monterey from 10th Street. And what we're looking at here, if you've been down there over past the Harbor Freight and the McDonald's and stuff like that, as you get onto the freeway there, they have a homeless encampment that is in that little triangle there. And the state has the reason why that Gilroy can't do anything about this homeless camp is that it resides on a state highway, and the state highways belong to Caltrans. And Governor Newsom has said that they can't move these people. As long as they're as long as they're home. There's some reason that Newsom has given the hands off on these people.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest travesties that I see out of this homeless situation is that so many people are just, I think that there's lots of people making money. Even if they call them nonprofits, they're in there for a profit. But anyway, the Highway 101 homeless camp finally dispersed. Caltrans is planning a cleanup date to be determined. They actually have not left yet because they got a stay by some judge. The homeless service providers help residents of a growing encampment along Highway 101 move out of the area March 18th in the anticipation of a cleanup by Caltrans crew. However, in the early morning, Caltrans notified city officials that they would be postponing the sweep for a date to be determined. The camp is just adjacent to southbound Highway 101 on the on-ramp of 10th Street in Gilroy and has grown in size over the past years. Homeless people have been removed from various business areas in the cities, according to Jan Burstein, Chargin, a founding member of Pit Stop Outreach, an organization that provides services to the homeless. So we can go on and on and on about this homeless population and the businesses or the organizations that are trying to help them. But there's many situations where these homeless organizations are really banking on the money that they're getting from the states and stuff like that. And I'm not sure, I haven't done any kind of research on what's actually going to help the homeless, but I know San Jose, as I go down Monterey Road sometimes on my way home, have addressed the situation where they're making small towns out of trailers. I think they've got these 60-foot trailers that they make. I think four living places. I think they have 100 square feet in them or something like that. That they're actually have them off of the highway. They've made I want to say a caged-in area, if you want to call it, for better lack of better explanation, but a cage situation where they have a guard at the gate. I missed you. You got to unmute your mic, bud.
No, I'm sorry. It's just supposed to tell me that. A gated community.
It's a gated community for the
sorry.
people. And then also you have in San Jose, if you go by the airport, if you go down Coleman Avenue, they actually have a shanty town that used to be in the, I guess, what did you call that? The crash area of the runway.
That's what it is.
It's a crash area for the runway, and they've got a homeless encampment there where there is from last time I looked at, you can count, probably 20, 30 tents, another 20, 30 trailers, and believe me, the trash is pretty bad. I don't get out of my car to go look at it, but there's got to be something done. I mean, I have a heart for the homeless, and I think that as long as they're not doing any harm, let them camp where they camp. I mean, we should give them services. I mean, especially in Gilroy here, I have a big boner with Gilroy and their trash pickup anyway, because they went in with a blind contract and they allow them to raise our rates. I think it's what, 2 or 3% a year, and these people go without. I mean, the reason why the place is all trashed out is, a lot of the homeless are collecting stuff, or keeping some of the stuff that they had when they did have places, but there's a lot of trash that gets developed. I mean, look at the trash in your own house. I mean, you got to put out your trash every week. Well, you got 30 people living in a freaking little area, you're going to have a lot of trash. And I think that the freaking trash company ought to get off their ass and go pick up that freaking trash every week, along with my trash. Because you know what? You guys are making another 1 to 3% every year in increases in my sanitation and my garbage pickup. And I think that we deserve it. I think we as a community should demand that. I mean, if nothing else, that's what we should at least do to at least
Well,
keep
you
the
can't demand that of a business. What you can do is you can demand your government to pay for a dumpster to be put there and tell the service to come pick it up.
Yeah, that's what I think. Well, I think that's what it is. Is exactly. I think that people ought to get involved in the city council meeting and go like, look, this is what needs to be done. And if this doesn't need to be done, then we got an election coming up.
The thing is, there's kind of two major types of homeless people, right? There's the ones that are homeless because they can't help themselves, right? They have nowhere to go. They have no one to go to. They are mentally ill or disabled so that they can't work. Right. Okay. That's one situation. Then there's the people that want to be in a house, but for some reason or another, bad luck, whatever, an illness, who knows what happened.
It could be an illness, it could be a lost job, the coronavirus. It doesn't matter. I mean,
mental ill.
A lot of people are one paycheck away.
Right. That's different than the mental illness one.
Yeah.
Right. Those are people who really don't want to be homeless.
Right.
Okay. And then you can see, like, when they start out, I work with a guy whose family is actually homeless for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's hard.
And they started out like sleeping in their car. Okay, and then they really lucked out because they found a warehouse that they could set a little kitchen up in, and it has a bathroom that they with a sink that they can wash their faces in, and a toilet, right? They could put pads down on the floor and sleep at night. Get out of there in the morning, right? So they kind of lucked out, but not everybody is that lucky. So then what do you have? You have, $300 left. What are you going to do with it? Okay, well, I need something to live in, so I'm going to buy a tent.
Yep.
Now you need somewhere to put that tent.
Yep. And then you got to go squat. You got to go squat, dude. Sometimes you got to go squat. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And then you have other people who are nomads. You know what I mean? Like they have a job, they have vehicle, they have means. They just don't have a place to park.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're floating around all over the place too, with nowhere to stay, really. Nowhere to call home. So, you got to deal with each one individually. The mentally ill people, they shouldn't even be out in public.
No.
They should be in an institution. But, back in the late 70s, we closed all those institutions, like Ag News. A lot of those people you see on the street that are talking to themselves and screaming at the sky and flailing their arms, they should be in an institution somewhere, not out on the street dying slowly.
Yeah, and I can't see why, in this day and age, even an institution like Ag News was where they had found that mistreatment and stuff like that had happened. Even as we've evolved as a society, that would have cleaned itself up And I think that it would have been held accountable at some time or another, but it shouldn't have been held so accountable that they closed it down because they thought it was too cruel. Because I think the cruelest thing was to let these people out on the street to be able to fend for
Yeah, they
themselves.
use that as an excuse. They just didn't want to pay for it anymore.
And they just didn't want to pay for it anymore. I myself would gladly pay a tax of some kind to keep these people in a place where they could either be cared for or rehabilitated in some way or something like that. Not want to say that it being a prison or anything, but surely there's got to be a way that we've got to address that situation. As far as those people that want a home and just lack a home, but they have every other need. I mean, those are the things that we can work with, and I just want to make sure that our homeless advocates, those people that care for the homeless, those organizations, let's make sure that we put all that money towards that. I mean, can we forget about the high salary CEOs in some of these places? I mean, I've heard some horror stories, and I know there's only few and far in between, but we don't need them all. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of good things, and most of the people that are doing a lot of good things are those ones that are doing the work by themselves, not from state funds, not from federal funds. So those are from funds that they get from me and you, funds that we contribute to them. And I just, I want to be able, a lot of people have come in right now and they're going like the brown paper bag movement. Our Lady of Harbor welcome one and all to build a better life and nation and not to build a wall. I mean, there's all kinds of people that are watching the Weathered Soul podcast right now. And I welcome all you guys right now. It's a fantastic show. Thank you guys for watching. But hey, listen, I mean, we got it. We have an immigration policy that's out of control, which is going to contribute to the homelessness. We've got a economy that's out of control that is contributing to the homelessness. We have a pandemic that's out of control that's contributing to the homelessness. And we have to be able to take care of these people somehow, some way. So that's pretty much my community's unity type situation that I wanted to say. We're banging up against time. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew where my heart was in this whole situation. Every kind of topic that we talked about tonight is actually on my heart, because if I don't talk about things for fun. We can joke and lampoon about news and the administration and all that stuff, but really, when it really comes right down to it, me and Dougy get to sit here. We get to talk a couple of times a week. You get the unique opportunity to listen to at least one of our conversations every week on Monday night at 7:00. And we just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to listen to us, because we're just two old guys that are not scripted, telling you to get the hell off our grass, because we want you to listen to us. And here's where I gush all over Dougy, because we're way over time tonight, and I didn't get to do any of my Plexus ads or anything like that, but that's okay, because we did something more important, and we're just contributing to our community, putting ideas out there in conversation to light, and being able to have you guys come in and listen to us. Give us a comment on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. I will make sure that we recognize you and mention you in the podcast. Thank you to everybody who hits that share button, hits that like button, everybody on Facebook who joins the group. I love you all. I love this guy right here, right there. That guy right there, Doug, he is the guy right there. I love that guy to death. Say good night, Dougy.
Good night, Dougy.
It's been a long time since you said good night, Dougy. This is AKA the Weathered Soul. And if you share this with somebody, I promise we will be back next week with the best podcast that the internet has never heard. So we'll see you later. Have a good night, guys.